Well, the Reverend Julian Dobbs is the head of the Church and Islam Project. This is an organization that looks at the Muslim religion and what it means to us. And he says there's more behind the people that are trying to get this Ground Zero Mosque than we may know. Reverend, how are you?
I'm very, very well. Great to be with you.
Great to have you. So what do we know about somebody? We know one of these guys is a guy with a rap sheet as long as your arm who was recently a waiter. I can't imagine how this guy could come up with enough money to build a mosque. I don't know, build an outhouse, much less a mosque. So who is this guy, and where's the real money coming from?
Well, that's the big question that has not been answered fully and substantially with regards to the Ground Zero Mosque. The concern about those involved in the mosque, the individuals behind it, especially for the imam who is the so-called Sufi leader of the Islamic Center that's going to be built there, proposed built in Ground Zero, is to say this: what is the position and the theological perspective that is causing so much concern? And the answer is this mosque and this Islamic Center will be based on Sharia law, which refuses to allow individuals to choose and change their religion. And so we've heard so much about the freedom of religion over this issue, but the very religion which has been promoted in that mosque refuses to allow people to choose and change their religion. That's the big concern for me. So
do we know that they're going to be participating in Sharia law, these folks who are going to open this mosque? Because we really don't know who they are, do we?
Well, we know a number of things. We know that Sharia law is an important and indisputable facet and foundation within Islam. All four schools of Islamic law agree today that Muslim men who leave the faith and do not recant and return to Islam are to be killed. I'm just simply quoting from the words of Muhammad and the Hadith, the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad. That part of Sharia law forms the foundation for what will be expounded through this Islamic Center.
So it's sort of like joining the mob, huh? You can join, but you can never quit.
It's almost impossible to leave once you're in, and we're seeing that. Now, people are saying that Imam Rauf, who is the imam in charge of the proposed mosque in Lower Manhattan, is a gentleman. One of the bishops in New York, an Episcopalian bishop, has said, look, I know him personally. He's a lovely guy. He's a Sufi. He doesn't stand for all of this intolerance and injustice. But look, the Sufis themselves support the Hamas terrorist organization. These guys have sent money and jewelry to Hamas. It's all there plainly for people to read. And so simply to claim that because he's a Sufi and doesn't practice the portions of Sharia law, which are truly practiced around the world today, is irresponsible. These guys, their religion is based upon Sharia law, and that's what they want to see established in the United States.
Well, it looks like with any other religious building, any other like a church being built, people normally you have to go in for permits and things like this. You have to register. People know who's behind this normally, but this is quite mysterious in that we don't really know where the money's coming from, and I think that's the important part of it. Now, I think that constitutionally, whether we like it or not, they have a right to build on this property if, in fact, they do get to the point of being able to buy the property. But we do deserve to know who's behind this, and if we find that it is somebody that's behind this that has ties to terrorism, then they should be shut down.
Look, I don't dispute the fact that they have the right to build a mosque, not at all. That's an important part of the freedom of the religion that is the United States of America. But what I do say is this: is it appropriate there in the shadow of that hallowed ground, where on that day, September the 11th, 2001, almost 3,000 people lost their lives because of Islamic terrorism, to build a mosque and an Islamic center over which the minaret will tower, the symbol of Islamic oppression around the world? Is it appropriate for that mosque to be built in that place? And from my perspective, surely the answer has to be no.
So we know do you know anything about this guy who was the waiter, the guy who's supposedly behind this thing? Or
I only know what I've read in the media about him. My information about Imam Rauf is more clear. He's written a book, for example, What's Right with Islam, A New Vision for Muslims and the West. And in that, he affirms various things which should be of concern to us. Firstly, he affirms that Muslims interpret the Quran through the Hadith. The Hadith is a saying of the Prophet's Muhammad's sayings and actions, and it is in the Hadith that we read, for example, that those who are caught in the act of adultery should be stoned to death. And that's happened within the last 10 days in Afghanistan. This is the foundation of belief that we see out of this guy who's the imam of this local Muslim center.
So you've been following this, and you've gone to 6 continents talking about this and researching this and looking into what is Islam. Do we have a lot to be afraid of if this religion takes hold in the United States?
We certainly have a lot to be concerned of. I never think that we should be dictated to by fear. But let me say this. It is the intention of certain so-called moderate Muslim leaders in this country to institute Sharia law in place of the U.S. Constitution. Now, you can go to the public media, on record in the public media, to find statements from Islamic leaders that affirm what I have just said. If we have Sharia law in this country, we'll have Sharia courts, we'll have the draconian punishments that are in Sharia law, we'll have the apostasy law, which does not permit men and women to choose and change their religion without fear of reprisal. We should be concerned. Certainly, we should be aware.
What concerns me, though, or what puzzles me about this, I guess, Reverend, and we're talking with Reverend Julian Dobbs. The website is churchandislam.com if you want to check it out. What puzzles me is we have a lot of people on the left in this country who come to the defense of the Muslim religion, and of course they never come to the defense of the Christian religion, but the Muslim religion is everything that the left despises. I mean, they oppress women, they stone gays to death. I mean, all the things that the left stands for, the folks, the Muslims are against. What is this strange relationship that we have between the American left and the Muslim religion?
Well, isn't it interesting that since 9/11, since those nearly 3,000 people were killed as a result of Islamic terrorism, so much of the Western world and its leadership have capitulated to Islam. We're afraid to critique Islam. We're afraid to call Islam to account. And I believe we must call any religion to account. The Christian religion, where Christianity has perpetrated crimes against humanity, they must be called to account. And so the left needs to have a hard look at Islam's treatment of women and children and the way women and children are subjugated in the name of Islam, and realize, as you say, the very things that they stand for are not supported in this Islamic faith.
Interesting. Well, you can learn more, I guess, at your website at churchandislam.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. And folk can go there and look at some of our articles and get in touch with us there.
Excellent. Reverend Julian Dobbs, appreciate it very much.
Good to be with you.